Well, Stockers, this is Joseph Walsh from RightTradeStock.net. I have just seen Henry Hathaway's Down to the Sea in Ships, my final voyage this year to the New York Film Festival, the 54th New York Film Festival, which has another couple of days to go, but sadly this is my last day up here. And I'm happy to say it ended with a bang. Wow. I'd never heard of this film, and if I have, I've forgotten about hearing about it. But I've gotten to repeat view some Hathaways that I've seen in the past, namely Kiss of Death and Niagara. I've got to see some new films that I'd never heard or seen before, namely From Hell to Texas, which was a much shorter trip than you would have thought, and Shepherd of the Hills, the Lee John Wayne vehicle. You know, I didn't think I'd be blown away by anything in this series, but I love being proved wrong. I was blown away by this movie. I can't believe I've never come across it before. It's from 1949. It's one of his films from 20th Century Fox. Hathaway to me has always seemed somewhere in between the A and the B list as far as production values, budgets, A-list projects that he was assigned to. Of course, he vacillated between the two. He did a lot of B films, did a lot of A projects. He was a class guy. He was a name in the industry. But this movie blew me away. It's ostensibly a very simple story. It's Lionel Barrymore plays an aging captain of a whaler in the 1800s who the board of the whalers or whatever it is, like they want to replace him because he's aging, and he's been raising his grandson to take over. His grandson's very young though, he's about 7, 8 years old, but he wants him to one day be old enough to take over as captain of the vessel. Into the mix steps Richard Widmark, who's never actually had practical whaling captaineering experience, whatever it is. He's never actually captained a whaler before, but he's studied. He's at a university, so of course there's the crusty old seaman, no pun intended, up against the college boy, Richard Widmark. But Lionel Barrymore plays Richard Widmark to his own ends as well, because he wants Dean Stockwell, his grandson, young Dean Stockwell, to get an education. So he kind of utilizes him as his tutor as well. So into this triangle between grandfather and grandson steps in the older brother / father figure that the boy never had, Richard Widmark. So there's that triangle melodrama going on, but at the same time, they spared no expense on the seafaring exploits in the film. I mean, they spent some money on it. The production value and the production design are all top notch. It's actually great, not just it's not just exciting to watch them in whaler mode in the film as they actually ply their trade, but it's almost a procedural as you get to see how the whalers go about earning their living. You get to see it almost step by step. You get to see the action aspect of it, and you get to see the practical aspect of it once they drag the whale back to the ship and how they make the blubber into oil and store it. But I mean, as far as there's several great whaling as far as like hunting scenes, and there's a granddaddy of an action scene at the end of the movie that involves an iceberg field, which I love never giving anything away, so I won't tell you exactly what's going on in that sequence, but I found myself gripping my chair. It was so tense at the end. Never heard of this film. If you've never heard of it, this is definitely worth seeking out, not just because it's a curio, because it's eccentric, or because there's some weird stuff that it does in the film, or it stands out because it's kind of an odd Western. This is a bona fide gem. So I'm sure a lot of you who are watching this right now, you're very aware of this movie, the TCM crowd particularly. I'm brand new to it. This is the first time I saw it, was tonight, and what a surprise. What a way to end my 2 weeks up here on discovering, you always want to discover a treasure, and by God did I discover one tonight. Down to the Sea in Ships by Henry Hathaway. There's a lot more I have to say about this movie, but we'll catch up in person. We'll get a coffee, we'll talk, I'll pay. Anyway, so yeah, I'm glad to say I'm closing it out on a great note. This has been one more spectacular experience for me, being part of this film festival this year. Sad to say this is my last night, and sad to say it's only once a year that this happens, but grateful again to Rachel Allen and to Beryl Lynn for facilitating all my requests, really accommodating every one of my requests this year. Like I said, I got to see about 10 movies in 7 days, and they're very generous up here, and they do a great job. If you don't make it up here often, or if you've never made it up here, you really should. Just take a look at their calendar all year long, not just when the film festival comes around. They do a great job up here with repertory cinema and with first run stuff. I mean, it's really the pride and joy of the New York film goer to be able to boast that we have a cultural center like this up here. But yeah, I have to say goodbye to it now. There are 2 more days. There's 1 more day of the Henry Hathaway Fest. That's coming tomorrow. You get to see 2 movies tomorrow if you can make it up here early enough. 23 Paces to Baker Street and The Dark Corner are both screening tomorrow, and 35mm. They're both on loan from 20th Century Fox from their archival unit. So, you know, you don't get to see this stuff too often, and it's worth making the trip up. And there's plenty of first run stuff. Closing night is Sunday. Again, there are plenty of tickets available, and if you haven't made it up here for the festival yet, it's really worth making it up here. So I sadly close out one more year at the New York Film Festival. My 3rd, their 54th. I will be back next year. Hopefully they'll have me back. They keep having me back. They'll never learn. They're just crazy. They just keep inviting me back here. But thank you for sticking with me and watching these posts, and I will continue to do these posts. We have a new YouTube channel called Nitrates.tv, and I'll be back. I'll be posting all year round now as I attend any repertory film on the circuit, on this grand and glorious New York City repertory film circuit that we call our own. I'll be checking in before and after, maybe even during the movies if they'll let me do it. You know, I haven't been asked to leave the film yet. That could change. It's a new year. So yeah, from Lincoln Center, in the glorious Upper West Side of Manhattan, this is Joseph Walsh from NitrateStock.net. Please follow me on Facebook, and please follow me on Twitter and Vine and Instagram, and now my new YouTube channel. And head to NitrateStock.net to check the calendar, the interactive calendar, to let you know what's going on around town on the repertory film circuit. And now I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to say goodbye to one more New York Film Festival. And I'm going to close with my usual plea: stick with me, stalkers.